I'm Joanna Guy, Lead Associate in Booz Allen's Global Defense Sector, and this is Master the Mission with Roy Kitchener. Roy Kitchener is a retired United States Navy Vice Admiral who last served as Commander of the Naval Surface Forces. Through a 39-year career with the United States Navy, Roy's decorations include a 3-time Defense Superior Service Medal, 5-time Legion of Merit Award, and the Defense Meritorious Service Medal. At Booz Allen, Roy is focused on leading solutions that accelerate fleet readiness. Roy, thank you for joining me.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here today.
As a naval surface warfare officer, you deployed all over the world and commanded cruisers, destroyers, and an expeditionary strike group. Through your career, what are some of the defining moments that shaped your approach to training and readiness?
It's a really good question. I think, when I look back over it, my first ship was a very old destroyer, old Coons-class destroyer, built in 1958, and I served there from 1985 to 1988. And because it was an older ship, readiness, wasn't very good. Systems didn't work as they should. It took a lot of effort from sailors to keep everything working. The training improved significantly when we had Operation Praying Mantis, the tanker wars in the Gulf, and the ship was asked to deploy early, well ahead of schedule to go there. And the training ramp up was significant. And I thought, okay, here we go. This is good. This is what we should be doing all the time. Flash forward to my next tour, which is a little bit unconventional. I served at a special boat unit in the Republic of Panama. And I worked with, a combined team of sailors and Navy SEALs. It was an eye-opener in a number of ways. One, it was a lot of the same principles, take care of your gear and your gear will take care of you. That applies to a guided missile fire control system as well as it does to a sidearm. Training and readiness, making sure everything is working. That's what saves lives, right? And if you look now at a war in the Pacific, if you don't go there ready, with everything working and your sailors trained or your Marines trained and ready to the highest competency they can, the cost is lives.
Can you describe an experience when you were deployed and you were in a disconnected, intermittent environment and you had to rely on your training in order to jump into action?
It's the best environment you described, right? Where you don't have a lot of oversight. I was in the Northern Arabian Gulf and we were boarding a lot of ships. And on some of the biometric data we got on one of the ships, it came back as, oh, this is somebody we want. And so we had to put together, we had some people with us that were really good at that, doing assaults to take prisoners. And so basically we just sort of etched together on a napkin, and literally it was a small piece of paper, how we were going to do this. And I communicated it as best I could and basically just got, okay, execute when you're ready. We got the guy and there was no casualties and no problems. And so that meant a lot to me and the team that they put their trust in us to do that.
The war in Ukraine, what are some of the lessons that we've learned from that conflict, specifically as it applies to information and data warfare, that we might be able to lift and apply to a future conflict in the Indo-Pacific?
I would say one and foremost is the ability to adapt to your enemy's changing tactics. Then the Russians first invaded Ukraine. It was armor versus anti-tank weapons. A small mobile force that defeated a large kind of conventional armored force. Then it rapidly shifted to drones, whether there be unmanned surface vessels, UASs, and adapting different packages to them to get at things. And then it turned into, okay, how do I counter the drone? So what is the counter UAS? Which I think is a very tough problem that the U.S. Navy, Marine Corps, all the services are facing.
Booz Allen is a leader in data. We're the lead provider of artificial intelligence to the federal government. How have you seen data leadership in action at Booz Allen?
I've seen it in human performance. I think one of the things we lack as a military is our ability to look at an assessment based on data to give us that absolute ground truth and then be able to feed that information back to the person, tactical commander, maybe the fleet commander. Hey, how did your fleet do, or your your strike groups too in this maneuvering. And I think that's something that Booz Allen can really up the military's game in. Booz Allen ability with Advana Jupiter, setting up those data streams to come in and then allowing us to take all that data and look at it analytically and ask questions about it. I know as a commander of the Naval Surface Forces, we were nascent with that, and it's accelerating now, but it was Booz Allen that kind of got us on the right path. And when I looked at it, it started out, one is, okay, where are the ships that I have to worry about the most? And then it turned into, okay, how many are ready and how can we make them more ready? And so you could see sort of the power of the decision-making you get there. Where do I need to invest the next dollar? Is it in parts? Is it in training? Is it all of the above?
What's one technology that you wish you would have had as a commander?
I think the readiness tools, if I had those as a commander in my last job or as a CO of a ship, it would have been very powerful.
One thread that you touched on was predictive maintenance and around making sure that your combat systems are ready to deploy and ready at the point of action. Can you speak a little bit to some of the logistics challenges that you experienced as a Vice Admiral of the United States Navy?
We know there are certain things that are across a class of ships that are always going to need to be looked at. Yet sometimes we would not apply the right amount of money or the right scope to the problem. And we get about halfway through our availability and say, oh yeah, this area here, it's going to be a problem. And it would be like, well, why? We know that was going to happen. Having that understanding across modernization and legacy systems, at a whole would help us deliver as 80% that the CNO is looking for. Booz Allen alone could help us increase readiness right now if we applied some of the tools we have to that problem I just outlined.
After a distinguished career with the United States Navy, why Booz Allen?
First and foremost, I think, was mission. I saw it as an opportunity to continue the good work we were doing in the Navy, to help sailors, to help improve the team, the readiness overall. Second was I worked with Booz Allen people throughout my career, whether they were on my staff or whether they were on a staff that I interacted with as an action officer doing different things. And they're all really capable, really collaborative, very focused on, the teamwork and getting to a conclusion, but not just a conclusion, a meaningful one that not only helped the organization, but also helped all the people around them get better. And I think that kind of speaks to, the culture.
What advice do you have to a young sailor?
You should always feel like you can make a difference. And if you can't, or if you lose that feeling, then something's not right. Because every job I had, whether it was a small division of a dozen people or, commanding all the surface ships in the Navy, I always felt that I could make a difference. And relationships, they'll be with you forever in an organization like the Navy. But as you proceed through and you become more senior and you get to the top, you can look to your side and there's usually somebody there, and then you can really make a big difference. And they should be proud of what they're doing, serving their country. And there's no better organization in the world, I would argue. And it's really neat to be part of a team that's very successful and has got the backing of the American people and industry.
Well, thank you for your service, Roy, and for the passion for the mission and expertise that you're bringing to Booz Allen. And for any viewers out there who would like more information about our solutions for global defense and accelerated readiness, visit boozallen.com/defense.